a black woman and then imprisons his son. You got to be dealing with an animal, brother. One white man said about them, and this was another honky talking about him, Bernard Shaw, says that America has never known civilization. He said it is the only country in the history of the world that has come from barbarism to decadence without going through civilization. Don't let that man define who your heroes and your patriots are. Columbus was a dumb honky. He was the 14th century. Columbus was the 14th century, Joe Louis. He was looking for India. You ever dug where India is on the map? But understand this, America has the power to legitimatize anything that happens. They legitimatize his stupidity. And they said he discovered a country. How can you discover a country full of people? We also recognize that individuals do not create rebellions, conditions do. Until they begin to address themselves to those conditions, rebellions will continue and they will escalate. Sometimes the question has been raised about why black men fight and have fought for this country. It is the black man's implacable will to be free that makes him fight for this country. And it is that same will that will make him fight this country. I want to address myself now to problems as they exist in the black community across America. And America cannot be considered as a stable and just society. But no stable and just society can mount a successful offensive against black youth who break a window and at the same time plead that it is powerless to protect black youth who are being murdered because they seek to make American democracy a reality. Each time a black church is bombed or burnt, that is violence in our streets. Each time a black body is found in the swamps of Mississippi and Alabama, that is violence in our land. Each time black right workers cannot be protected by the government, that is anarchy. Each time a police officer shoots and kills a black teenager, that is urban crime. You see, we recognize America for what it is, the Fourth Reich. And we tell America to be on notice because if you are gonna play Nazis, black folks ain't gonna play Jews. Yeah, man. We have to begin to move to control our communities. Everything that's in your community that you don't control is a weapon against you. Public education as it exists today is a weapon against black people. TV and news media, especially the WPP, white power press, white people's paper, and white people's power are enemies against black people. What the white press does is that it makes black people an enemy of black people.
But that was back in the 1960s. What has happened to H. Rap Brown since? Has he changed? What is he doing now? We'll find out in just a moment.
At least. How did you come to get the name that you now are known by, Jamil Al-Amin?
I seek refuge in Allah from misleading and from being misled, from betraying and being betrayed into ignorance by others. I ask Allah to guide my heart and to guide my tongue. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin means beautiful servant of Allah, the trustworthy. Again, the naming is very significant. Naming in any society is significant because it gives one something that he aspires to. It gives a description as to what a person is. My name was given to me when I was incarcerated, when I was in prison after becoming Muslim. And again, the name Jamil, which the Arabic translation is beautiful. Abdullah means servant of Allah, and the Al-Amin is the trustworthy, which was one of the titles that the Prophet was known by, trustworthy.
Was it in prison that you embraced Islam?
I became Muslim. I took a shahada, what's called the Declaration of Faith, when I was incarcerated, when I was in prison, yes, when I was on Rikers Island.
And who bestowed that name on you?
There was a strong Islamic movement known as the Darul Islam movement which was headquartered at Senate at the Yasin Mosque out in Brooklyn. And they used to come inside the prisons to conduct the Juma, the Friday services. So it was these brothers who came in, and one of the brothers who invited me to come to Juma. And I went several times before becoming Muslim, but after becoming Muslim, one of the brothers gave me the name.
Let's go back a bit. Where were you raised, born and raised?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
What kind of young man were you?
Well,
let's say as a student, what kind of personality were you? Were you athletic? Are you quiet, shy, outspoken? What kind of young man were you?
I guess, some of all those things. I played ball.
Basketball?
Basketball, football, and track. Was brought up in the church. We were brought up in the church.
What church?
It was a Baptist church. My mother's church, my father's church for a while. And
really? Your father was a pastor?
No, not a pastor.
He just his church. Okay.
Yeah, he attended the church. But the activism came through my brother Ed, who he's an older brother, my older brother. He became involved in the movement when he set in at the Greyhound bus station and was expelled from Southern University.
Where was this? What town?
This is in Baton Rouge. This was during the sit-in demonstrations. We had been active earlier just in the community during voter registration with the YMCA. But as the political activism, as that I was involved in later, it had its bearing upon what Ed had done. I was still in high school. Ed was expelled from Southern University and later got a scholarship to Howard. But as a result of that, I was propelled into a kind of activism in dealing with the students at Southern University.
Well, it's not as simple as all that. Your education, you didn't learn much about our history in school.
Oh, no. I think that the only African-American personality that may have occurred in the books that we used, it was either George Washington Carver or Booker T. Washington.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, so, it was a total absence of any kind of African-American black positive image, for us when we were coming up as to the history.
So then, when did the political education begin, which precedes, I would think, political activism?
Well, it was clear in terms of the kind of apartheid that was being practiced in the South and throughout America at that particular time. It was clear that there was an injustice that was being done.
We're talking about the 50s now.
The 50s and into the 60s,
Okay.
So again, it was a spawning ground for activism because people were keenly aware of the difference between, the European community and the African-American community. I lived in Baton Rouge where you have Southern University and you have LSU. And I lived about a mile from LSU. So we would visit the campus that LSU had, and there was no comparison between what LSU had and what Southern University was. And Southern University was one of the better physical plants that African Americans had for school at that particular time, but there was no comparison in terms of
tenets of racism.
And so you feel that there are good whites and good blacks and bad whites and bad blacks.
It's not a case of being good and bad.